Mic check 1 2 1 2. What's going on, y'all? Welcome back to Gems with Josh. I'm your host, Josh. And hey, man, we're already at week 12 of the NFL fantasy season. We are almost close to the playoffs. We got to go ahead and get started, right? So we got 3 weeks into the playoff start. You might want to start thinking about a lot of things, how you're going to set your lineup, what matchups are best for you. Start thinking about those things. If you're lucky enough where it looks like you're going to make the playoffs, or if you're on the borderline, now is the time to start thinking about all of those things, all right? Big deadline coming up this week as well in fantasy football. Going into the Thanksgiving week, you have the trade deadline coming up, all right? Maybe you need to shore up your quarterback situation, backup tight end, kicker, defense, etc., etc. This is a good week to start shoring those things up. So please don't miss that deadline. Make sure you get those things in. And talking about matchups for those playoffs coming up in the next 3 weeks, right? One of those things that you might want to target and start really looking at is your defense, all right? Defense is one of those weird things, if you have it in your league, that can actually help you win a matchup, right? And get you over the hump. One of those teams I think you might want to really start looking at, which is kind of a surprise, is the New Orleans Saints, right? Not the best team, hasn't been one of the best defenses all season, but they have really, really good matchups for week 15, 16, and 17. So they're definitely one of those defenses that you might want to target and pick up in your league, all right? So start looking at those different matchups for your defenses in your league and start thinking about those things, right? Another position you really want to look at as well is kicker, right? And one of the biggest things with kickers during the playoff season will be weather, all right? You don't want to have a kicker who's going to be kicking in places that have a lot of snow, a lot of wind, right? Might want to start looking for kickers who are kicking in domes, kicking in warm weather places. You really want to start looking at your matchups. Again, kicker and defense are one of those sleeper things that really can help you get over in a matchup. Maybe your running back doesn't play as great as he usually does that week, and you need an extra 7 to 8 points to help you get over the hump. These are things that might help you out. So start thinking about those things. 3 weeks to the playoffs, guys. It's time to buckle down. It's time to get it right. All right, so let's go ahead and move over to our quarterbacks for this week. All right, so quarterbacks this week. The first guy I have on my list, we had him on the EP last week, Jacoby Brissett going against the Jacksonville Jaguars. And look, man, ever since Jacoby's been put into that offense for Arizona, he's looked very, very good. The thing that I love about him is he's really getting the pass catchers involved, especially Trey McBride. Even though Marvin was out last week, he had Wilson looking like an absolute stud. And the great thing about Jacoby as well is he has not been turning the ball over. He's had 16 points or more in fantasy these weeks that he's been starting. I think that continues this week against the Jaguars. If you need a quarterback to stream this week, Jacoby Brissett should be a safe bet for you. All right, another quarterback I like this week, Tyler Show, quarterback from the New Orleans Saints going against the Atlanta Falcons. Again, guy that's never been on the EP, but I love the matchup this week. If you watched the Falcons last week, man, they let Bryce Young look like prime Joe Montana. I think Tyler Show has some really good weapons with Olave, Juwan Johnson, and those backs. I think he'll have a good week. If you're looking for somebody to stream this week, Tyler Show, quarterback going against the Falcons, all right? Let's move over to running backs. Running backs that I like this week. We're going to start off with a name that you might be a little bit surprised, but Ramondre Stevenson coming back this week, going against the Cincinnati Bengals. Mike Vrabel came out this week and he definitely stated that he would still love to see Stevenson as well as Jennings in that offense, even though Trey Hendricks has been playing very, very well with Stevenson out. Mike Vrabel really loves his veterans, and I think Stevenson is going to continue to keep doing what he did before he got injured. A great matchup going against the Bengals. I think he'll get majority of that red zone work. So, yeah, if you got Ramondre Stevenson, RB2 flex position this week for sure. All right, following up next, right, you got my boy K3, Kenneth Walker III going against the Tennessee Titans. The Titans have been, one of the worst run defenses this whole season. And K3 finally looked like the RB1 last week for the Seattle Seahawks going against the Rams last week. Got majority of the carries, and he actually got a touchdown in the red zone last week. I think that continues this week going against the Tennessee Titans. If you got K3, lock him in RB2 for sure, flex position. And last but not least, this week for running backs, you got David Montgomery going against the Giants. All right. Dan Campbell is a play caller now, came out this week, and he said he would love to see more carries for David Montgomery. I think we'll definitely see that. Lions are always better at home. I love David Montgomery in the red zone this week going against the Giants. 10 points or better in fantasy this upcoming week. You can go ahead and book it, put him into your flex position. All right, let's move over to wide receivers for this week. And yeah, wide receiver Christian Watson, receiver from the Green Bay Packers going against the Vikings, right? Since he's come back, he's been Jordan Love's #1 target. Jordan Love has really, really been looking for him in the offense. I think Christian Watson continues that this week against the Vikings. Flex potential, even wide receiver 2 potential this week. All right, another guy I love this week, Jerry Jeudy going against the Raiders. I don't know if you guys saw the Raiders and the Cowboys game last week, but George Pickens and CeeDee Lamb had a time with them, okay? Some people might be skeptical. They're saying, oh, Shador, rookie quarterback coming in, but he has a full a full week of preparation. And I think Jerry Jeudy, I love the matchup going against the Raiders. If you're looking for somebody this week, flex position, wide receiver 2 position, I think Jerry Jeudy's going to have a good week this week. And last but not least, you got Darnell Mooney, wide receiver from the Falcons, going against the Saints. All right, and this is primarily because who else is my man Captain Kirk going to throw the ball to? All right, you have Drake London. He's going to be out. They're really going to stack the box and try to probably stop the run against Bijan and Algier. I think Darnell Mooney could be a flex guy this week to get you 12 fantasy points or better. He might be one of those guys. If we got guys on bye this week, it's now or never for Darnell Mooney. I think he's going to step up, all right? Let's move over to tight ends for this week. Same game, right? Kyle Pitts, from the Falcons going against the New Orleans Saints. Same situation there. There's not a lot of targets out there for Kirk Cousins to throw to. So I think Kyle Pitts is going to get a lot of targets this week going against the Saints. We've got Kyle Pitts. He, to me, might finish up as a top 5 tight end for this week. All right. And last but not least, I got my boy Colston Loveland going against the Pittsburgh Steelers. Steelers have struggled on defense recently, and the Bears are looking so much better. Looks like Caleb Williams is really going to be looking for him, and it's one of the better matchups of the week going against the Steelers. If you need a tight end to stream this week, I know he didn't play as great the last 2 weeks as he did the first big breakout week, but I think Colston Loveland is a safe bet to put in tight end this week if you need somebody to stream, all right? And I know last week we took a break, but this week, man, we're going to get back to it. You got Thursday Night Football coming up this week. Really good matchup. You got the Buffalo Bills going against the Houston Texans. I would love the matchup a lot more if C.J. Stroud was playing, but he's not playing. But to be honest with you, Davis Mills does not look that bad. And, the Houston Texans defense has really been holding it down, right? So the first guy I want to start on there, right? You have Woody Marks. They have him at 79.5 rush receiving yards. Going to go up on that one. Buffalo has really struggled against the run this year. Woody Marks is getting majority of the pass work in that offense. I think he goes over 79.5 tomorrow night. All right, next guy on that list I like a lot, Jaden Higgins, wide receiver 2 from the Houston Texans. They have him at 27.5 receiving yards. Definitely going to go over on that one as well. He's clearly wide receiver 2 on that offense behind Nico Collins, and I think Davis Mills is really going to be looking for him. Buffalo's going to probably try to take Nico out of the game. I think Jaden Higgins definitely goes over 27.5 receiving yards. Coming up next, you have Dawson Knox, tight end from the Buffalo Bills. They have him at 24.5 receiving yards. I'm going to go over on that as well. Dalton Kincaid is out again this week. Josh Allen has some good rapport with Dawson Knox. I think it's going to be a really defensive game. I think he's going to have to mix it up, move out of that pocket, throw the ball a little bit. And I think Dawson Knox is one of those guys I think he'll get the ball to. 24.5 receiving yards, going to go over on that one. All right, we're going to go back to Jaden Higgins. They have him at 2.5 receptions. Going to go over on that one as well. I think he's going to be very involved in the offense this week. See him getting anywhere between 4 and 5 catches. So, yeah, definitely on that one. And last but not least, man, again, both teams have pretty solid defenses. The Buffalo Bills struggle a lot versus the run at times, but when they get it together, they look like a pretty good defense. But we already know the Houston Texans might be the best defense in the league. So I have both of the kickers from both sides. You have Kay Fairbairn, They have him at 1.5 field goals made. Going to go over on that one. And then on the other side, you have my boy Prather, kicker from the Bills. They have him at 1.5 field goals as well. I'm going to go over on both of those. I think it's going to be somewhat of a defensive game. I think the score will be anywhere between 27-21, 27-24, somewhere around there. I think kicks will have to be taken tomorrow night to win that game. So I definitely think you can lock both of those kickers in. Again, guys, 3 weeks into the playoff start, you really want to start looking at your matchups, right? Who might be best for, this week or that week. You even might have to switch your things up again. Start looking for those defenses. Start looking for those kickers. And with the trade deadline coming up right now, maybe start looking at maybe not a guy who's great right now, but if he has great matchups then that you think you might be able to use in your flex or at quarterback, right? Really want to start thinking about those things. I really appreciate you guys supporting us. Can't believe we're already at week 12. We're going to continue this thing, keep going. Good luck to you guys. I hope you guys get into the playoffs. And yeah, I'll see y'all next week. Peace.